Right, Shabbat Shalom, everybody. So, a short word before we go into Kabbalat Shabbat together. This week, as you know, in fact, I think it was announced only yesterday, we read about the passing of the famous Topol, aged 87. And as you'll know, we're going to be marking that tonight with a special Kabbalat Shabbat service, I guess associated with the tunes from the role with which he was synonymous, one particular role, and that was as Tevye on Fiddler, or in Fiddler on the Roof. He was also, fun fact, in For Your Eyes Only, a very good Bond film, but not a lot of people remember him for that one. They remember him as Tevye, who he played the role as for many, many, many years, ever since the 1960s. They say he starred as Tevye over 3,500 times, possibly even over 4,000 times. Broadway, the West End, Hollywood, for all intents and purposes, he was Tevye in that famous garb, that famous shtetl costume. I mean, I hope he gets points for all the days in which he was wearing tzitzit. That's a pretty big mitzvah to have done, however, unintentionally. But he made a career out of faking it as one particular person. Now, people might have a lot to say about his character, and you might be disappointed to hear that I think it's a really sad character. I feel like his character development, he ends up being the loser at the end of Fiddler on the Roof. As time goes on, as the story goes on, he has to lose more and more of himself, and he has to concede more and more to the whims of society in order to preserve a relationship with his family. What's interesting is, as well, is that in the film he's portrayed as not really knowing very much, a very simple milkman. But in the original Shalom Aleichem material, he was way more learned, and he would have known the verse in this week's portion in Parshat Ki Tissa, Et Shabtotai Tishmeru. We have the commandment, we have the reminder to mark and to celebrate and to remember Shabbat. You must keep Shabbat. Ki ot hi beini uveinechem. For this is a sign between me and you throughout the ages. Ledorotechem. Ledat ki ani Hashem mekadeschem. So that you will know that I, Hashem, have consecrated you. Now, if we were to ask Topol, if we were to ask Tevye in the musical why we keep Shabbat, he would respond with one word. What's that word? Feel free to unmute yourselves. Tradition! Why do we keep Shabbat? It's tradition! But it runs so much deeper than that. Our verse in this week's Torah portion is teaching us that the reason why we keep Shabbat is because it's all part of our relationship with him. He has consecrated us. He has made us holy in the same way that we designate and consecrate a relationship between a husband and a wife in an act called Kiddushin. So too, he has designated us as the people that he wants to be committed to. And we should want to be committed to him. It's fascinating when you think about it. The song, If I Were a Rich Man, would it spoil some vast eternal plan if I just didn't have the burdens that I've got, if I didn't have the burdens of tradition and halacha? But it's not just supposed to be a series of rituals and habits. We are supposed to appreciate that Shabbat is loaded with meaning. It's loaded with spirituality, just like the rest of our traditions, just like the rest of our halacha, just like the rest of our mitzvot and our opportunities are. But we don't always feel it. Tevye didn't always feel it. We don't always feel it. And so if we don't always feel it, we can always respond in the way that Tevye did. Put on a costume and fake it till you make it. We have the opportunity every week to get it right. It might take hundreds of rehearsals. It might take hundreds of botched attempts where we don't embrace and we don't experience Shabbat in the most inspirational way. But that's why it's there every week. That's why it's there as our relationship opportunity with our Creator. If we don't get it right one week, we get another go the next week. We'll get there eventually. Please God, we should have at least 3,500 Shabbats in the same way that Tevye had 3,500 performances. Please God, we should always appreciate our traditions and feel like a rich man, a rich person in whatever we're doing. We wish you only blessing and success for all that to come, and Shabbat Shalom.